Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Outreach Information Session, What is FarmNet? It's our October session for 2024. My name is Damali Winter, Assistant Commissioner at New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets. Just a quick review of the agenda of what we'll review today. This information session is recorded, as they all are. These information sessions are placed onto the Diversity in Agriculture webpage for Department of Agriculture and Markets, so people can access this information, and so will the slides as well. We're going to talk about some of the additional resources that are available to people to tap into in addition to information sessions like this, and then we will jump right into our presentation about what is FarmNet as a resource, how can people tap into it, and et cetera, et cetera. And then we will follow up for whatever questions might not have been answered. During that session, it will be a collective time for questions specifically regarding the presentation or anything that you might have had following up regarding, ag and markets and the outreach information that was previously presented, along with a little appreciation for thank you for joining us. And with that, there is a lot of information to share, so we're going to jump right into it. As I said before, Assistant Commissioner Damali Winter with New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets, for those that are just joining us. We have multiple points of just information for the public to learn about just agriculture, food systems, nutrition, and what's going on with the department, especially as it represents and advocates for a lot of our stakeholders in the agriculture and related community. One of those being information sessions such as this. These are about once a month toward the end of each month on a Wednesday, and they're very topic-focused information. It could be anything from our past ones have involved emergency management and learning about different resources, what to do in advance, priorities, who to speak with when it comes to grant-making fundamentals, and just some core information to help make things more competitive and what's happening behind the scenes on this end. We've also had someone come to just generally better understanding New York State government. So those, again, are available on the Diversity in Agriculture webpage on the website. In addition to, there is one specifically when it comes to outreach resources and dig a little deeper into the agriculture website, a lot of the work that happens when it comes to outreach and more information that's available and people tapping into that. We also have open office hours. Those happen monthly, twice each month, one in the evening and one in the morning. To find out when those usually are, you can join our newsletter, one of those being the Information and Opportunities, also known as Ag and Markets Resource newsletter. You can always register directly from the Diversity in Agriculture webpage. There is a link directly from the agriculture.ny.gov website. And our next two resources are highlighted in bold for a reason. It's going to be outreach at agriculture.ny.gov. That is a primary email address set up specifically if you are someone who has some question related to agriculture, you want to do something about maybe some type of home business related to food. You have some questions where you saw something of question regarding like animal care, something like that, and you don't know where to go with this information or this question and want to dig in a bit more. That is at least one place you can go to place that inquiry. Know that this takes questions from across the state, the nation, and sometimes internationally, so it does take some time. And if you really dig into the main website, that agriculture.ny.gov, we've been very thoughtful of trying our very best for all the divisions and all the information that's under the Department of Agriculture and Markets website to have, like, the divisions always include some type of point of contact of a name or an email address that you can follow up with. But if you're like, I do not know where to go within those divisions, you can at least go to that general email address, outreach@agriculture.ny.gov. That's why that exists. It will take a little bit longer if you're unable to go directly to one of the division websites, but understandably, you do have a starting place to start those conversations. And last, as previously mentioned, we have the Diversity in Agriculture webpage, which you can connect to directly from the agriculture.ny.gov webpage. That site is designed as just like a primary base. It brings in a lot of additional information from other sites. It is a landing page that can connect you to, here, I'm a beginning farmer. What are the resources available to me? I'm looking for just general funding and resources. Where can I go from there? When it comes to just learning about different reports and our connections when it comes to the USDA agriculture census, that's there as well. So it is pretty much designed as best able to bring a lot of information that is all over the internet. And frankly, as government, it is not our strength when it comes to communicating a lot of things on this end. So it's not the best, not best always to just try to search and figure out on your own. That's why that diversity in agriculture webpage really exists, to give you a central source for a lot of information. So you're encouraged to look at that as well. Again, you can find that directly through the agriculture.ny.gov webpage. And I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you. Again, also, if you go to that Diversity in Agriculture webpage, all of these information sessions and their slides are available, including one specifically on our outreach, going through all of these websites, going through the different resources, and just taking a little more time for a lot of this information. So you're encouraged to look into that. And with that, because he has a lot of information to share, and definitely want to leave time for some questions, it's my pleasure to introduce you to the Outreach Director at FarmNet, Adam Howell. As you see on your screen, from business planning strategies and assessing retirement options to mental health support and mediation services, New York FarmNet provides a broad range of assistance tailored to the distinct needs of farmers. That definitely should not be underestimated for anything that's going on out there. If you're part of the farm community, you can appreciate there might be a little additional type of stress approaching it. When it comes to, financial concerns, land concerns, there always would be something very distinct when it comes to agriculture in that community. So FarmNet exists specifically to approach those things through that lens and provide that support and understanding with that in mind. A lot of those resources are at no cost, so I'm not misspeaking, or at low cost. And he's also one of those resources that, here, I don't know who to go to. You can go directly to Adam. Worst case scenario, if he doesn't know who to go to, he can probably call me just as much as I might call him. So he has been great about saying, like, here, if there are questions throughout, I will keep an eye on the chat and try to field any of those questions that you guys might have. If you want to hold those questions to the end, there will definitely be time toward the end as well. But with that, I would like to hand it over to Adam. The floor is yours, sir.
All right. Thank you so much, Molly. And thank you to everybody who is joining us and to our friends and partners in Ag and Markets. A lot of what we do, in fact, most of what we do is through getting the word out to the community and through getting referrals. That's how we interact with farmers. So it's so important for us to have the opportunity to sort of tell our story. So we really appreciate this opportunity. And yes, I will take any and all questions throughout. Hopefully we can get through some good information and leave you with a sense of what we do. So like it was mentioned, New York FarmNet is a totally free service provided by out of Cornell University, and we're available to any farmer throughout the state of New York, any commodity type, any size. And we accomplish our mission in a variety of ways. So what I'm going to do real quick is to go into some background on our program, some of our staff, our service structure, and then we'll go into a little bit more about the details about how we provide services to farmers in New York State. Looks like, Tamale, that you'll have to move the slides for me unless I have control and don't know how to use it.
Okay. I'm going to say I'll move the slides for you. Okay.
Sure, no worries. So we can go to the next slide here. So I have the privilege and the very fun job of being the outreach director for New York FarmNet. It is my role to go out there and tell the story of our program. Our program has been around for quite a while, as we'll discuss in a moment. And I am also in charge of developing any partnerships and really finding new and innovative ways to connect our services with farmers, like I said, of any type, any size, any commodity. So I like to put my information out there. Please feel free to share my contact information by email with anybody who you might know who would be interested in learning more about our program. We love to talk about the services we provide. Next slide, please. And this is our dedicated central staff. We are a staff of full-time staff of 6 people. Our program, like I said, is based out of Cornell University, so our home base is Ithaca, but most of our staff are actually remote. So we have Michael Robinson. He is our farm business management specialist. He is the person in charge of all of our financial consultants who interact with farmers on financial and business business planning issues. Becky Wiseman is our family consultant case supervisor. What that means is that she works with all of our family consultants. We have a large number of social workers who are part of the team that goes out and assists farmers on things like stress, mental health, personal family communication, and things like that. Melanie Moss is our program administrator. She makes the trains run on time and makes sure that we are spending our money wisely. She keeps us in check and does a great job of making sure that that everything runs smoothly. Greg Merck is our executive director. Many of you might know the name. He also goes around and spends a lot of time representing in our program and talking about the services we provide. And then Kendra Jansen is our education and research specialist. She is also an amazing team member who helps plan and organize a lot of our educational outreach. We are doing more of that, as I'll talk about in the future, and she really keeps the program on track. Next slide. And then the heart and soul of our of what we do is our consultants. We have anywhere between 40 and 50 consultants active at any given time, and they are operating throughout the state. These are the people who actually are on the ground providing services to farmers. They go out in person and meet with farmers and provide a variety of different, like I said, services, consultation, support, and planning roles. And they go out in teams. So we have family consultants and financial consultants, and what they do is they provide an integrated approach to assisting farmers, because we found, as we'll discuss in a little bit, that the problems that face farmers throughout the state, they are holistic, they're global. Personal problems, mental health, family problems, they interact with the business and vice versa. If the business is having pressures that require intervention, greater amounts of debt, new directions, maybe even succession planning issues or beginning business planning issues, that causes stress and can take a toll on the family. So we find that an integrated approach is the best way to do things. Next slide. And as you can see, we are spread out in terms of our consultants' location throughout the state. You'll notice sort of a pattern there in that we tend to have more consultants active in the main agricultural areas of the state, but for the most part, we like to be within about an hour of any farm or farm family client that utilizes our program services. So at the end of the day, our services are provided locally by people who are within the region. They understand the areas that they serve, and they have usually have a long history in the areas they serve and understand the farming community quite well. We also bring our team in for training and education, usually about 3 times a year, so that we can keep our consultants abreast of issues like anything related to tax law, immigration law, the latest in family counseling or communication, new programs, new services. We like to make sure that our consultants are highly trained and up to date on everything to serve their clients. Next slide. So why we do what we do, you all know some of these sort of harrowing statistics that I'll briefly touch on here. But as we have seen over the past few years, and with the latest data that's come out from the agricultural census, farming is under pressure throughout New York State and throughout the country. New York has lost a large amount of farm acreage, and and the number of farms has declined in the past several decades. We're seeing consolidation in many different key sectors, like the dairy industry, as many of you know. The average size of a dairy farm has increased, while the number of dairy farms themselves have gone down. Our goal is to keep the agricultural sector healthy and viable, like so many other programs throughout the future, going into the future. Next slide. And then the next key point that I want to make is we are also a people-centered service. So when I say that our goal is to keep a healthy and thriving agricultural sector, we also mean that to focus on the people involved in agriculture. As you can see, and as a lot of you are almost certainly aware of, um, farming and agriculture is a high-stress profession. There are higher rates of suicide. There are higher rates of mental health or poor mental health outcomes, injury, stress, opioid addiction, all of these things, all of these pressures and poor outcomes are centered on the farming community. And we need to have a support system in place to ensure that farmers have an outlet for support and have the ability to not only take care of their business, but take care of their mental health, their families, and really thrive on both sides of the coin far into the future. Next slide. So to talk a little bit about our beginnings, we did begin in 1986 during the farm crisis of the 1980s. Many of you are probably aware of it, but this was a very trying time for agriculture across the country, and sadly, it did center directly on agriculture, unlike a lot of other times where thinking of the Great Depression or wars or other economic challenges. This is really a time that focused a lot on agriculture, which meant that the wider public was not aware of some of the problems that were happening. It was an economic bubble. There were low prices for commodities, high costs for inputs. Foreclosures rose, bankruptcies rose, and sadly, ensuing mental health problems like suicides also rose during the 1980s, specifically in that agricultural community. So Cornell being a center of agriculture support, as it was then and as it is now, decided to do something about it. And at the time, it was thought that the best way to provide services was to create an 800 helpline and provide sort of acute financial assistance, meaning that people could call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and receive advice and consultation on financial issues. Now, we are a program that has learned from our past. And during this time, our financial consultants in the 80s came back and were telling us that the problems that were facing farms and farm families were deeper than the finances. They really touched on things like mental health. They touched on family conflict, addiction, all sorts of personal mental health issues that financial consultants weren't by themselves capable of addressing alone. So we brought on, through learned experience, the family consultant piece of integrating social workers to be able to holistically deal with these problems. Because like I said before, they follow one another. Financial problems can create mental health issues, or vice versa. Mental health issues can impact the business. Next slide. So our core services are quite simply we provide free, confidential, on-farm consulting to any farmer or ag service provider in New York State. Now, when I say on-farm, it's very important that people understand that our consultants actually go physically to the farm. We have a fun little informal motto in that we find that the best solutions are found at the kitchen table, meaning that our consultants will go and provide advice, support, and consultation on a variety of issues or multiple issues at once by meeting with the farmers at their place of business or at their homes, getting to know them and building trust. To start the process, we operate a 24/7 helpline. People can call anytime, day or night, and they will talk to a real human being, even if it's after hours. And then we'll start the process of taking down some information and then looking at that information and assigning the appropriate consultants to help them with whatever unique or multiple unique problems that they may have. So we have consultants who are better versed in dairy, or some that are more experienced with crop issues. We have family consultants who have worked on transition and succession planning cases and understanding the stress that goes along with that. But there are others that have worked more with beginning farmers and the stress that can occur with that. So we try to pair the right consultants with the right issues. Also, it's important to note that people can request services online. They can go and fill out a simple web form, and we usually try to get back to them within 24 hours. Sometimes a little bit longer, depending on availability or the access of our consultants. The other thing I want to mention real quick is all of our consultants are part-time. That allows for a lot of flexibility. It allows us to bring on people who may be semi-retired but still want to be actively involved in the farming community and supporting that community. So it's a very fluid situation with regards to our consultants and pairing people and connecting. Next slide. So like I said, we take in some initial information when somebody calls. We try to assess what the primary issues are, whether they're financial, whether they're personal or mental health oriented, or both. And then we assign the appropriate team of consultants who reach out themselves. Usually, like I said, we try to make it within 24 hours, but definitely less than a week span of time. And they arrange in that initial call a time to meet. Our consultants will travel to the farm in almost all cases. Sometimes it's not possible, and establish a rapport with the farmer and really get that initial understanding of what the issue or issues are, and then the consultants will start developing a plan. And then the other thing I want to mention is that because of the unique cultural nature of farming, and because of a process that we have developed over many years in understanding what works best, we maintain absolute strict confidentiality between our clients and our consultants. Confidentiality is critical to ensuring that trust exists between the consultants and the clients, and ensuring that that the appropriate information can be conveyed without any risk or any worry on the part of the farmer that their personal private issues will expand out to the wider community. So we do highlight the fact that we're a completely confidential service. Next slide. So like I said, it's the integrated model that makes us unique. And when I say integrated, we develop plans. And when I say we develop, we help the farmer develop plans that take into account both family personal issues. For instance, we might help a farm that is going through a succession planning process, which is a very technical, legal, and financial process, also develop plans to communicate better between the generations. Intergenerational communication is a very complex situation where social workers have a unique skill set that can help better address those family dynamics. We want to make sure that everybody at the table feels heard. We want to make sure that everybody has a same understanding of the plan and the process. So the integrated model is a planning process where financial issues and family or personal issues are integrated into a plan that takes into account both sides equally and helps the farmer have the information to make the best decisions possible. One thing I will mention, we do not do the work for the farmer or farm family. We provide the options, we provide the experience and the knowledge, the third-party perspective. Like I said, we'd like to set the table, but it's very important, unlike a paid consulting firm, that the farmer or farm family makes the appropriate decisions themselves. They have that sort of that agency over the decision making, and they do it in the best, most informed way possible. Next slide. So here is just a little few bullet points on some of the services that are provided. We do financial analysis and decision making, again, helping the farmer understand some different perspectives on their own business. Sometimes having an outside perspective is helpful when you're a little bit too close to the issues and problems. Business planning, this can be both for beginning farmers and people that are maybe transitioning into different types of businesses. Like I said before, dairy is an evolving type of farm business plan that may require a new approach for some farmers that want to stay in farming, but maybe the sole dairy approach isn't the best for them. Retirement and estate planning, business transfers, family business management, succession planning, these life change events that have a large amount of planning and different aspects involved, estate planning, attorneys, tax planning. We help with all of those. And then on the personal side, family relationships, personal well-being, stress, communication. Like I said before, intergenerational communication is a huge issue that we see quite a bit, especially when it comes to succession planning. There are issues related to stress and anxiety when it comes to an elder generation having to pass on some aspects of control to their successors, to their children. Obviously, depression, conflict, and anxiety. Farms are family businesses, so these are complex family dynamics, and sometimes between spouses or generations, we see a lot of that. And then, of course, the just the general anxieties that come with the everyday pressures of business. And we try to help farmers and farm families deploy some strategies so that they can keep their mental health uh, in check, or their mental health maintained while they're going through the ups and downs of farming, which is, as we all know, something that is highly present in the industry. Next slide. So farmers call for a variety of reasons. The interesting thing about this is that our consultants oftentimes act like investigators. So you see some of the reasons that farmers call, but what we find out is once our consultants get on site, they and get to know the farmers and the farm families, they often uncover other issues that are at the core of the problem. And so a farmer may call for one thing, but we oftentimes over the course of years, and I do want to mention that our consultants work with farmers for free for as long as it takes. They find new dynamics or new issues at the root of the problem. So it's never it's usually never one thing. It's usually many different problems that are uncovered in the course of a case, and oftentimes we get repeat calls. So a lot of our clients come back after many years, or maybe their children call us again, or their spouses. We get many calls and work on many different issues with the same families over the course of generations. So it's an interesting methodology that we deploy. Next slide. So one thing that we like to bring up is that farmers can and should call us anytime. We are not a program that is only here for farmers who are in crisis or have major problems. We are here for farmers who see themselves as exploring new opportunities. Maybe they're looking or wanting to understand more about how to apply for grants, something that maybe they've never done before. Maybe they're at a point to where they're ready to expand and they need a little bit of guidance on that. We are not there only for quote unquote bad things or problems or disasters. We are here to give a third party perspective, advice, and consultation on a whole wide range of things. I would love it if every farmer in the state of New York gave us a call at least once throughout the farm's business lifetime, because we can be helpful and assistive on a wide range of things throughout a wide range of periods during a farm business's life. And again, we work with any type of commodity. So the other thing I'll mention is our consultants oftentimes say that they wish that their clients would call before something becomes a big disaster, because the earlier farmer calls, the more we can do, the more options, and the more ideas we can present. So we like to say that farmers can and should call anytime. Next slide, sorry. So again, this just circles back to a little bit on what our financial consultants do. Our financial consultants can help with any number of things for as long as it takes. Again, we don't do the work for people, but they will look over the books and sort of sleuth out some of the ideas on how farmers can make better decisions, ideas on what should be done for retirement. Again, oftentimes when it comes to financial consultation, depending on the period that a farmer is at in their life, farmers may not even know the questions that they should be asking an accountant, or asking an estate planner or an attorney or a financial advisor. We can help give them a roadmap so that they can make better decisions and really even know what options of support are out there. We will also sometimes guide farmers to different, more appropriate areas of support depending on what they're calling about. So a good example of that would be something along the lines of a scientific or very technology-centered question. We don't have people that analyze the protein levels of feed, or look at the genetics of things. There are better there are better people at Cornell and better people throughout the state for that, but we do make referrals and we can help with finding those people. That's something that we're really good at doing. Next slide. Again, when it comes to family consultants, a lot of it has to do with the general stress management of running a farm, starting a farm, transitioning a farm, or dealing with the complex dynamics that are involved in the act of farming. You know, farms, unfortunately, they're often in areas that are isolated. They are often in areas that do not have access to traditional services related to mental health or counseling. So we can help bridge that gap. We don't take the place like we said with the financial professionals. We don't take the place of full-time counseling. We don't take the place of psychotherapy, but we can help bridge some of the gap and lead people, if they need it, to more intensive services. But when it comes to just opening up lines of communication, being an objective third party, helping make sure everybody at the table is heard, running effective meetings between family members or business partners, those are things our family consultants are amazing at. Next slide. So here's just a little bit of information about our program outcomes. As you can see, some of the highest areas of our case counts are in the most agriculture heavy sectors of agriculture throughout the state: the Hudson Valley, the Mohawk Valley, Finger Lakes, Great Lakes watershed areas, things like that. And then it tapers off when you get into like the North Country and Adirondack regions where there aren't as many farmers. But we take anywhere between 700 and 800 calls throughout the year. Not all of those calls transition into cases, but we like to have between 300 and 400 new cases opened every year. We also have about 450 to 650 cases ongoing. And like I said, the reason for that is that we work with farmers for years at a time. So we will keep cases open for as long as it takes. We don't have a set calendar by which we force farmers to meet with us. We are very, very flexible. We understand seasons like the harvest season, planting season, the different times of year when people might be visiting, go out of state or on vacation. So it oftentimes takes years for us to really get farmers that we work with to a good place, but we're totally willing and very happy to do that. Next slide. And then this is an evaluation that was done in 2019 that discusses some of the wider program outcomes. We did some deeper surveying of our current and past clientele then, and we found that thus far we are thankfully very well received by the farming community that we work with. 90% of the farmers we work with remain in farming. Most of our clients say that they would call FarmNet again, and what's behind that statistic, it's actually higher in terms of the fact that the ones that stated that they wouldn't call FarmNet again, it's mostly because they're responding to the fact that they've transitioned out of farming, and so they wouldn't call FarmNet again because they aren't farmers anymore. But we've kept a lot of acreage in farming, and we feel that we've had a really good impact throughout the state, and we're excited and willing to do more as the years move on. So next slide. We have begun to do a more wider educational outreach in the farming community throughout New York State, especially in the mental health area, but also in terms of business management, planning, and other services. We like to think that educational outreach is an important part of making sure that the sector itself stays healthy. So Talk Saves Lives, as you see centered there prominently, is a program by the American Society for Suicide Prevention. And it is a program that is designed to be a community-based approach towards arresting and preventing suicide. So what we do is we go out and we teach our social workers, go out and teach different groups about how to talk to somebody who may be experiencing suicidal ideation, how to help prevent them from actually carrying out the act, and to give some tips and resources to how to guide them to support. And it's a really effective community-based approach, especially when it comes to agriculture, where there aren't a lot of services nearby in isolated rural regions. We've done webinars and educational outreach presentations regarding tax awareness, regarding succession planning. We like to provide the the knowledge and experience that our consultants have to the wider community, so that at least a few good ideas can get out there, even if we don't see every farmer that we'd like to as an actual client. Next slide. And then we have a variety of digital resources. It's very important for us this day and age to be able to connect with partners and communities throughout the state. We work with a lot of great organizations. Ag and Markets and the Office of Mental Health are just a few examples. We work with nonprofits, Cornell organizations like Pro Dairy, and many others to sort of extend our reach and to also provide other good resources that others may be creating for our farm clients. We have a monthly newsletter. It's called the Farm Hand. We have a great website full of resources that are put out by nonprofits, by the state, by others, and then our consultants and our team members write educational articles for publications throughout the state to give people tips about things like considering mental health whenever you're working on the business, how to communicate with the family, how to consider stress and anxiety during transitions in life, things like that for the farm community. Next slide. And then here are our lovely supporters and funders that we very much appreciate. We also receive some funding from the private sector in the form of grants from the agricultural banks for consultant training. We do some fundraising throughout the year, but our main supporters are from the state Office of Ag and Markets, Mental Health, and then our host, our program home base is at Cornell University. We are technically under both the Dyson School and the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. Next slide. And then one other thing, New York is lucky in that it is rich in so many programs that provide support for the farming and agricultural community. But people do oftentimes confuse us with cooperative extension. We work very closely with Cornell Cooperative Extension. We oftentimes provide a lot of programming and educational presentations on behalf of the cooperative extension, but we are different. The cooperative extension is obviously county level, works on things like technical assistance and providing community education on a wide variety of things. We provide one-on-one consultation for the majority of our work and really work, again, directly at the farm for specific questions that are specific to the farm and farm family. So, but we will oftentimes refer people to cooperative extension if it's appropriate, and cooperative extension refers cases to us if appropriate. Next slide. And then the last thing I want to mention here before we wrap up, FarmNet, because we run a 24-hour day, 7-day a week hotline, and because of the subject matter that we work on, we're oftentimes confused in the community with a crisis intervention service. And I want to be clear, we are not that. Somebody who is actually in crisis should always call 988 or 911, depending on the nature of the crisis, if it's mental health or if it's medical or if it's an injury, because those are the acute intervention authorities for life and death scenarios. And we don't want to be confused with that, because it's critical that people get themselves to the right location, the right type of help whenever that sort of problem occurs. And next slide. So I just want to leave everybody with this. Again, this is our website, our phone number, and then we have a program email. It is really important to mention that the vast majority of our clients come to us from referral. Farming is a very hyper-local endeavor, and we really need strong partners on the ground to understand who we are, what we do, and to connect us with the farming community, because it is a one-on-one, trust-filled approach that helps us get to the people who need our services. So if you ever know of anybody or any organization who you can tell about our services, we are very appreciative of that always, and more than happy to talk to any other organization as well about who we are and what we do. So with that, I'm very happy to take questions, and thank you all so much for listening to me talk here for a little bit, and we'll take it from there.
Perfect. So thank you very much, Adam. I haven't seen any questions in the chat. Just so you're aware, we've had some past little tech issues with this, so I did a double check. And I did a bit of a toggling with things. So if you were trying to submit a question earlier, you should definitely be able to do so now. Yeah, as mentioned before, Adam raised, this is a service for pretty much across agriculture. It is tailored to agriculture. It is like the cost is already covered with tax funds. And I see that like for those that are amongst this group, in addition to external stakeholders, we also have people from internal staff with agriculture and markets. This is just as useful to have this information on your mind as you connect with people. People ask about your work, how people might actually stop you, like, here, what's New York State doing to support with agriculture? You can share them about like one of these services that's available, again, at no cost. Adam is 100% serious with, we are a tight-knit world of industry. A large amount of everything that we do is word of mouth, people talking to each other in person. It is definitely not just driven by everyone going to different websites and emails. That is not really how a lot of our industry works. So when it comes to allies and advocates and their work as well, thank you very much, Adam and his entire FarmNet team. I'm just going to do like a final push for any of those questions that might be out there. Oh, sorry, here we go. I'm looking at a question now. I saw your financial assistance and support and business planning. Do you provide service to help farmers apply for grants?
Yes. So what we do is, again, we will not write the grant proposal for them. There are other services and better places to find that assistance, but we will help them understand the key components to grant writing, and help them understand how to submit the documentation and things like that. So we guide, like everything else, we guide them through the process. We answer their questions. We, if there are additional resources that they absolutely need, we'll help them with that, and we'll take a look at what they've created, but we just don't actually write it for them. That's the only caveat.
Very good question, Stephanie. And for those of you that might not be aware, if you go to that agriculture.ny.gov webpage and look through, again, to those pull downs for our funding opportunities, you can search. There is a healthy amount of funding out there to apply for right now, for a variety of things. Again, this is recorded. We don't want to appear too dated, so obviously keep sending people back to search through those. But there's a lot of kind of requests for proposals, opportunities for funding. We have another question here related to that. Do you specifically address business planning strategies for farmers to successfully apply for USDA loans and programs, or is this more for their personal planning?
We will both. We will look at the entire business planning. Yes, I guess the short answer is to say yes. We do look at both the personal, but also exactly what you mentioned, business planning. Now, there's one caveat. We do want to make sure that, because we have limited resources, that we are speaking to people who are prepared to, who are in a more advanced stage of initiating a farm business plan. We'll look at that and set up consultation for that and guide them to resources, help them with the plan, give them other ideas. But we typically don't start cases with people who are just in a very conceptual phase. There are better programs for that. Small Farms being one of them has some courses that we would maybe guide people to first. There's some literature people should look at. But if people are very close to, again, purchasing land, facilities, they have a lot of the advanced stage planning worked out, then yes, we do help them in that regard.
Thank you very much, Adam. And just to add on to what Adam shared, you'll notice he's like, even if we can't exactly help them, he knows the network of who to refer you to, or that person that you are speaking on behalf, to get that information. So again, we all seem to know each other and all trying to help one way or another. So just because you're feeling like, here, this isn't the perfect fit, don't be stymied by that. It might just take a little bit longer, but there's very rarely not a little bit of a resource or support available to help you get closer to what you need and get things done. A lot of stuff is out there. Unfortunately, not enough people know about a lot of these supports from New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets and related to kind of all of these different organizations, kind of as part of our outreach. I'm going to do a final call for any other questions, inquiries, related to our presentation today regarding FarmNet. All right. With that, I just want to thank everyone that joined us here today. Thank you very much, Adam in particular, and the FarmNet team that helped develop that presentation. I know it's a lot of work, and honestly, a lot of kind of long. It's a marathon, not a sprint. For those of you who attended, if you did not already know this resource or know more details about it, I encourage you to share this with at least 3 other people and tell them to do the same. So yes. we can expand that word of mouth effort when it comes to promotion for things like this. And go back to that agriculture.ny.gov webpage and learn more about our other information sessions and a lot more resources that we have to share with this community. We're only as good as when people know what's available to them. And with that, thank you all very much for attending. If you have follow-up questions, that's why we have that email address, outreach@agriculture.ny.gov, or as well, Adam provided his email address as well, so you have that direct resource that you can connect to. And with that, thank you very much, guys, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you all. Take care.